how I started out. Many moons ago, when I was 18, I grew up in a commercial industrial world with my dad. He was a manufacturer's rep. And his first job he was selling hardware down in Indiana. And one of his clients he called on one day went to the building, and he showed up and the building was burnt to the ground. And the client came outside and said, "Wow, what am I going to do here, Bill? Nothing I can do. This building is gone. I have no idea how to rebuild my building. All I got is this insurance policy." So he had no background in building at all, my dad, and he said, "Wow, there's got to be money in it. I got this insurance policy here for $300,000 to build a building for this guy's industrial warehouse." Started talking to people and getting pricing, and he put the building up for $120,000, and he kept the balance. He said, "Wow, there's something to real estate." Started doing building after building in Indiana. He didn't come to Michigan until the 80s. Just building them and leasing them, building them and leasing them wholesale, because that's the background. I was learning the game, what their costs are. That's the biggest thing I'm going to teach today is always pursue the cost, not the retail cost. People say, "Well, this costs this much." That's when I really challenge you to look into what it really does cost. There's ways you can find that out. It's not a secret. People don't want to share that with you, but that's really how you make a fortune in any kind of endeavor, is knowing the cost, knowing really A plus B equals C, but there's no secret to it. I want to take away the fear from people. Anyway, I started out with buildings with my dad, managing buildings, building buildings from the ground up, buying existing buildings, renovating them, learning how to contact people, how to evaluate good investments, bad investments. Yes, you make mistakes along the way, but that's how you learn everything. Just get better and better at what you're doing, constantly get a better group of people that you're doing properties with, better consultants, better attorneys. I think I have a really good group now that I work with. But it's all about people. It's all about networking. Really, it's just a constant, step-by-step process. And now, a lot of people here, I'm sure, have invested in homes or vacant land, and maybe you haven't bought anything before. I just want to talk to you about the possibilities are there. If you really want to put your mind to it and focus on it, there's nothing you really can't attain on your own. Going back to, again, when I first started out, I don't recommend you do this, but how I started out, my dad put me on the crew. I was doing cement work, framing buildings, doing electrical, plumbing, heating, roofing, drywall. I was in my, 18, 19, 20. You got a great tan, but you didn't make a lot of money. But you learned a lot about the game and about how things work, how people work. I guess graduated later on after I got out of college. Worked with my dad all through when I was going through college. When I got out of college, he said, "Well, Pat, what do? You got your degree now. Go get a job." I said, "No. What do I want to do?" So I went to interview a couple jobs, and I guess I already knew the question was not when I would start working with him, but how long it would take for me to figure that out and go back to it. I worked a couple months at a dealership selling cars. I worked a little bit at a management company, managing property, but I just knew that wasn't where I was headed. So I went back, working with him. We started buying buildings with him along Woodward Avenue between Square Lake all the way down to 9 Mile. Existing buildings or vacant land, and then putting value into the building and leasing them out. A lot of the buildings were acquired at, in today's world, this was 1980 when I got out of college. It's right at the cusp when Carter was still president. I know prime rate was 18% or 19%, and Reagan was just coming in, and we knew that things were definitely going to change, and I'm so happy they did change. Buy buildings on a land contract from property owners, went right directly to them. They had little tenants in them or no tenants in them, and worked out terms with them. And that's really the whole power of commercial real estate, is the terms, leverage. I didn't have any money, didn't have any experience. We just have a burning desire to learn and keep going and going, and every day just keep facing every day and talking to people and learning what to do, what not to do by trial and error, and mentoring with other people. My dad, for one, and other people he got to know through the different, trails you take through real estate, commercial. We get to know a lot of brokers and other property owners, the building officials. Really, that's the part of the game, is just knowing the people, because the people are a wealth of information. And they'll share it with you. They're not going to hold it from you. You just got to ask them. So over the years, just kept buying buildings and acquiring buildings, leasing, got involved in leasing, how to lease to tenants, how to deal with repairs, where you call a roofer up and he says, well, a roof is going to take $100,000 to repair this roof. It's a 10,000 square foot building. So now I can't believe that. That's not, just kind of wonder, wow, how did they come up with that kind of number? So you get to know a roofer, you get 3 competitive bids, get to know what roofers are trustworthy in all disciplines. You deal with roofers, electricians, plumbers, heating people. You just get to know what things cost, and it's all by getting in the game and doing things every day by day in the building business. Tenants, how to deal with them, how to evict them, how to renegotiate a lease, how to do a lease, what lease form to use. Really want to talk about the learning curve that you have and how you get started right from today. How many people here have owned buildings or currently own? I guess give me a flavor of where you're at in your cycle in real estate. How many people own a house or own rental property in the building? Okay, quite a few. Good. So you understand the how to locate a residential structure or a multifamily. I know someone here, Doug, you mentioned you're in apartments. Right. You currently own apartments. Mm-hmm. The commercial world is no different than apartments or residential. It's just a different farm of people. How to find the people, how to network with the people, and how to find motivated sellers. It takes time. You deal with the different brokers out there. You get to know them. You get to know your market. I'm going to pass on a magazine here just to expose people to different sources of reading. Just pass it around. I constantly use different brokers and different finders and different bird dogs that Mark mentioned to bring deals to me, whether they participate with me or they just pay them a fee and go on with life and have them send them back out and go find more property. But really, that's the biggest way to locate property. You can never be everywhere at once, and you got to multiply yourself. Constantly reading and talking to brokers and bird dogs. And Mark mentioned the property, and I have a couple of different projects I'm involved with Mark, but going back in the early 80s, you started with buildings on Woodward Avenue and expanded into other sites, industrial sites, vacant sites. Really, that's what you have to do, is just constantly look for opportunities, and that's what I'm here to talk about today, how to get to the bottom line, how to find the opportunities. Anyone have any questions on what kind of property you really want to deal with? You want to deal with commercial or deal with industrial? Anyone have any certain flavor or interest, what they want to focus on? Go ahead.
Anything with apartment condo conversions?
Okay, I'll talk about apartments. Honestly, my experience in apartments is not very strong. I've done 3 or 4 different properties in apartments in the past. Because of the management component, really in the commercial industrial world, it's very management less intensive. Apartments, you have to have a full-time manager and running it. It's basically a gross rent multiplier is how you acquire one. But again, you have to deal with the property owner, locate them, talk to them, find out what their NOI is, the operating expenses versus the income, get to know the market of what the rental properties are like, what the rental rate is, again, you learn that from the brokers, from the market, from visiting the properties. There's so many different apartment brokers. Apartment Realty Management Group is one. They're an open resource for you. I use Marcus and Millichap a lot because they know the national markets. They have local brokers here, they have local brokers in different states, and they're always willing to share things with you, what you need to know and how to evaluate a property. You see a lot of different apartments being converted now to condos. That's the new rage, because apartments are basically an income stream. The income stream is not static, it moves by what kind of rents the landlord can charge. Rates are constantly increasing the overhead cost of running an apartment. Utilities, you try to push it onto the tenant. In some situations you can't. It gets real difficult, because that's what the market will bear, is that the tenant is used to having the utilities paid by the landlord, but the utility cost keeps going up and up, so you got to find ways to be more cost effective on running your plant. So the latest turn is, Mark?
So, if you were going to go chase apartment buildings, how would you go about doing that? Like, where would I go find a great deal on an apartment building over 100 units?
Honestly, I've been dealing with different brokers. Again, I've befriended over the years and constantly keep finding new brokers. You tie into the properties they know about in distress. You tell them exactly what you want. You start visiting the properties they have listed currently and meet with them. There's a property right now we're chasing in Ypsilanti. It's in bankruptcy. It was a Fannie Mae loan, which is a non-recourse loan. The lender, pardon me?
Non-recourse.
In the commercial world, it's not like a residential world in financing. A property is not encumbered by your personal guarantee, it's encumbered by the income stream of the property. So the lender gives you a loan based on the income of the property, and that's all they have the collateral from. They don't care who you are, they look at the property itself. There's a lot of federal financing methods where you don't have any personal liability, and a lot of savvy investors, that's the way they go. And that's the opportunities you buy, because for whatever the reason, they have bad management, or they got a gambling problem, who knows what their problems are, they lose their apartment buildings. It goes back to Fannie Mae, and they go through the different clearinghouses to get rid of them, usually the local brokers.
Is non-recourse where I can't redeem it, like a foreclosure? Is that what non-recourse?
No, non-recourse means there's no liability on your part.
You're not signing personally?
Yes. It's done mostly throughout the whole commercial industrial world and the multifamily world. The lender is strong enough because they're looking at the income stream. That's all they know. That's going to repay their debt. Because they immediately take that mortgage and they resell it. They don't hang on to it. Anyway, this property in Ypsilanti that I've been chasing for about a week and a half, found out through the broker about it. It's not on the market. He heard about it through Fannie Mae out of Florida. And it's here in Ypsilanti. It's 144 units right near the Eastern Michigan campus. The family that owned it was a non-recourse loan. They gave it back 2 years ago to the lender. The lender gave it back, and Fannie Mae now is disposing it. The original mortgage on the property was $2.7 million. Right now, you can make an offer on it for $2.8 million. And this is a 15-year-old mortgage. It's got some vacancy problems, but you can, again, we're structuring right now through the bankruptcy court, through this bankruptcy attorney, went directly to the bankruptcy court, found out the attorney handling the case for the Fannie Mae, and negotiating with him right now on how to get the best terms, not getting a new loan, keeping the same loan in place, this restructuring. So we're paying $15,000 a month. Right now it brings in $30,000 a month right now, and it's only 50% occupied. Again, I don't have any money, or I have money, but I don't have any money I put into deals. Typically, I found an investor partner. As Mark mentioned, we've used partners in the past. We just put the deal together, and there's plenty of people in this room or other people that we know in a circle of friends that will come into a deal like that and put up the money to take on a property like that and ride right through it with us. Within 4 or 5 years, we can either resell it, refinance it. Sometimes we can sell it within a year. There's another property in Inkster, which took a different turn. It's another apartment complex. There's 184 units right on Michigan Avenue. This is about a month ago. Again, my mindset's not to buy and hold apartment complexes, but to buy them and find a group that really wants it and then jettison out into commercial industrial. That's really my love, or my niche I really want to focus on. Again, this was a non-recourse loan that came back to Fannie Mae through the same broker told me about it. But the twist on it, that Fannie Mae got a hold of Marcus Milichap, And before we could negotiate a deal, they give it to Marcus Millichap to market it. So they ratcheted the price up to 3.5, so we're out of the game. It's somebody we didn't want to acquire. But basically, it was a $4 million, all brick, 184 units, had an in-ground pool, it's all fenced, sits on 8 acres right off of Michigan Avenue. We were close to acquiring it somewhere in the high twos, probably 2.5 or 2.6. But now once it got up to 3.5, 3.6, the bidding war, because the world knew about it now. Marcus Millichap's a national firm, and the broker called me, in fact, yesterday and said, Pat, sorry you didn't get this one, but I got a $300,000 hard deposit, meaning it's non-refundable. The investor they found, investment group, was from another state, not even from Michigan. Put down $300,000, non-refundable. They're going to close in 2 weeks. They're paying 3.5 for it. They're just going to write a check and worry about the financing afterwards. What they're going to do is put a national management firm in there to run it. There's a lot of national apartment firms that are not really inexpensive, but they're results orientated. They charge a 10% fee, but they have a results orientated. If they don't get the occupancy you want, then they start dropping their fee every month. So what they're going to do is buy it and hold it. My intent was just to buy this, or tie it up somewhere in the middle twos and sell it in the low threes. Really, that's how you get. That's basically how you deal with different property mixes. Industrial, commercial, the same way. You just deal with certain brokers that handle that kind of product. Get to know who they are. There's not many out there. In the residential world, there might be 30,000. I'm going to say residential brokers in the Oakland County area that really know residential. In the commercial industrial world, boy, I couldn't even hazard a guess. I'd probably say there's 30, if that. Again, I recommend, if you're not already an agent, go become an agent. It's not that you want to use the real estate license when you're buying commercial, because it doesn't really apply, but it gets you into the game that you're not a threat to the different brokers, but you work as a team with them. There's different organizations you can join. Seaboard, there's different meetings to go to. There's apartment management associations. I would recommend you join that if you want to go into apartments. Seaboard is what I belong to. It's a commercial group of brokers and property owners, and just to go to network to their meetings. They're like once a month. They have a two-hour meeting just to talk to different brokers and different owners that are there.
Do you have a website?
Yes, CIBOR. We have different meetings around the state on different topics, on commercial, industrial development, redevelopment, the trends. Really, that's the key to the heartbeat of commercial industrial, is know the trend, where things are headed, what markets are growing, what markets are waning. And try to, like Mark alluded to earlier, about being in the path of progress. The site that that Mark located in Novi, it wasn't the property itself, it just was the location. It was a beat-up industrial building, and it had vagrants living in the building, right in Novi there. Met with the city said the building has got some environmental problems, had a bunch of drums there. I'll get into that later in the seminar. An environmental issue is not a problem to fear, it's just something that people want you to fear because they don't want you to chase the property that they're after. But basically, we dealt with the environmental issue. It was a non-issue, got rid of it. Put the property up with a broker I knew. Wasn't even really listed. I just kind of put it. I wasn't a broker at that time. I didn't become a broker until the year 2000. Really, if I'm looking back, I would have done that a lot earlier. I've been a builder for a lot of years, but I think being a broker, it gives you a good mix with people, and just like I alluded to, in the industry, get to go to the meeting, get to know them, they get to know you. Again, just try to aspire to deal with the people that have a good track record. They have the experience in the commercial, the financing, acquisition, or selling a property. Anyway, this building in Novi, we tied it up on paper from the owner, who was a motivated seller. Tied it up on paper. It took us about 4 or 5 months. To another broker, we just did a handshake deal with them because we didn't really have we didn't give him a formal listing. It was a broker I've known for like 4 or 5 years. And I said, Dave, just stay out of the way. We'll deal with the broker. I'm going to deal with the property owner. We already have a user in mind. put the user together with the property. We put a PA together within 6 months. We closed, and it was basically a $200,000 profit. We never took title to the property. It was a 3-way closing at Metropolitan Title. The broker got paid at the closing, and he said, "Pat, I'll never forget you. I'll bring you more deals," because most brokers out there in the industrial world are not investors themselves. Really, they should be, but I guess you really don't want the competition anyway. But they're just there for commission. They get their 6% or 5% on, on a $1 million sale. That's a big deal to them. Or 4. There's no limit to the amount of industrial and commercial properties you can really acquire. It just takes the time and the people out in the field. Again, you guys can be the people out in the field and doing the work and bring it to me and work a deal out with you. That's a constant, cycle you got to go through. Any other questions on apartments before I go more into the retail world? Okay, Catherine.
I was just going to ask how you distinguish between commercial and industrial.
Basically, commercial is anything retail. Retail strip centers. Anything industrial is a warehouse use. Mini storage, manufacturing plant, outside storage of trucks, boat storage, car storage. This high-tech space kind of floats between both. There's high-tech buildings they got an industrial component behind, and up front they might have a small office space for a high-tech type tenant office, and in the back they might have a widget they're selling or distributing. Those are really the two, way to define them. The commercial world is really, I guess, the biggest, broadest part of the industrial, and part of the commercial world is the retail sector. There's other parts of the commercial sector which are office and high-tech space, which I alluded to. But the biggest commercial part dimension is retail. There's little retail centers from standalone party stores, standalone. You see a lot of these wireless toys stores around. That's a new way they sell the phone, any kind of phone you want, but they make money because they sell all different, they have the 5 different carriers. They sign up with Verizon or Nextel or whatever other brand you want, singular, they get a commission on that. They're a nationwide franchise. They don't own their centers. They pay $30 a square foot triple net, and they sign a long-term lease because all they want is the volume. They sell the phone and sell you the service, an ongoing service. The commercial world is really controlling the property. I mean, that's what I'm going to really dive into. A triple net lease is, in the residential world, which a lot of people here are familiar with, you're used to the landlord pays the insurance on the property, the maintenance on the property, the taxes on the property, and just about any capital improvements to the property. If you rent a house, you got to take care of the driveway, the roof, the plumbing, the heating, the electrical, any problems. Usually you might have a deductible in place for the homeowner or the tenant if you're selling on a lease option, but in the commercial world, it's totally the opposite. The buildings I was involved with over the years with my dad and different partners now in the current day, there's a lease form that I use. I'm going to go more into leasing later on, the format, and into my mentoring class, really going to dive deep into the leasing world. But basically, a triple net lease, the first net is taxes. The second net is insurance, and the third net is maintenance. All tenants in the commercial world understand and they're used to the fact that they pay the operational cost of the building. Sometimes you get a double net, but the ultimate goal is a triple net or a bond lease, where every cost of operating that building is passed on to the tenant. So an example of a building on Woodward, it might be $18 a square foot triple net. The nets could be another $5 or $6 a square foot per year. But a tenant's used to paying that, it's in their budget, and they're used, they have no problem paying that. A real expensive example is some of the buildings that, the major players like Taubman has, different malls. Their base rent might be $50 a square foot. The tenant takes basically a white box. Sometimes we didn't give him a floor. He's got a sand floor, 4 drywall walls, electrical service, and a suspended ceiling. His triple net cost in the mall sometimes exceed the rent. The rent might be $40 and the triple net cost might be $50 a square foot because they throw everything in. The security in the mall, the security in the parking lot, plowing the parking lot, salting the parking lot, taking care of the trees outside, the administrator of the mall, the taxes on the property, of course, the insurance on the property, of course, all the utilities to run the mall, to run the fountains, to clean the fountains, that's all passed on to the tenant. And sometimes even go the next step, if it's not a real high-ranking tenant, and again, this is negotiation, but if it's not a real high-credit tenant, they'll charge a percentage of rent. Say the tenant expects to do $2 million a year or so of sales, you have to pay that kind of rent in the store, because the rent could be $20,000 a month. You take a percentage of sales of the store. Say a tuxedo store is, present tuxedo or after 4 formal wear. They typically take 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet in the mall. Their store might do $3 million a year. The first $1 million, the landlord might get 2% of the gross. The second $1 million might get 3% of the gross, and the third $1 million, they get 4% of the gross. And they send an auditor in to audit the books of the tenant every year, so it's another stream for the income for the landlord. And the tenants are used to that, and they're used to paying that. Starbucks does the same thing. They don't own any of their centers. They lease them all. They pay $30 plus per square foot absolute net. A lot of them pay a percentage of rent of their gross to the landlord as additional rent. All they want to be is near a big box, a big draw, a Kroger, a Walmart, a Home Depot, a Lowe's, because they know they're going to get that kind of foot traffic to justify that store. And if you think about it, all they're really selling is hot water with some flavoring in it. For $3 or $4, and it's a 4 or 5 ounce cup, it's incredible profit. They're happy to make it. They treat their employees well. I understand they pay their employees very well. They have a full benefits so they can make so much money just selling coffee. You don't really go there to eat. You go there just to drink coffee, and you get free Wi-Fi, and it's incredible. So I just want to just keep going further into the industrial world and the commercial world. The industrial world is a different kind of world. We'll touch on that a little bit later, but I really want to focus now on the commercial world. What I do every day, I'm a full-time commercial broker too. I work in Southfield. But I kind of balance my investment time with my brokering time. There's a website I want to write down for you, or have you write down. It's commercial/real-estate@dealmakers.net. That's their email address. If you go to their website, dealmakers.net, you can look at all their different categories. They have industrial, commercial, retail, multifamily, triple net, businesses. It's the only website I know. Question? Yes, their email is commercial hyphen, it's a line, realestate@dealmakers.net. Basically, it's a free email blast around the world for everybody in the commercial world. I use it all the time. People send me information, and I get a free outsource to all those people out in the industrial and commercial world. You type up an article, basically, looking for what you want, distressed property, Michigan. You could put down the county, the street, the type of product, and then all the floods of products come back from the different brokers and individuals that have those properties for sale. Made a lot of deals doing that, just from that one avenue. Also, when you're on their website, you can see on Dealmakers too, you can go into different property categories where you want to invest in multifamily, storage facilities, triple net lease properties. Again, that's another way for everybody in the room here to learn that game, how things trade, what they sell at, so you know a deal when you see one. That's really how you really make money in this business, to be able to know a deal go ahead and make a decision to tie that property up, and then go ahead and find a group to put together and go ahead and make the offer, get it tied up, and then find an exit for it, or get it refinanced. Every day I probably get, I'm going to say, 60 or 70 emails from different people from commercial real estate at dealmakers.net. You evaluate them, a lot of you throw out because they're from other states, Pennsylvania, California, Florida. They're all over the, there's stuff all over the state, all over the country. There's stuff from other countries. I don't get involved in that, but that's another avenue if you want to go into other countries.
You just work in Michigan?
I recommend narrow your scope just to Michigan, learn Oakland County or Macomb County or Wayne County, where you want to focus, and get to know that market in the commercial realm and industrial realm, and you'll start to know when a deal is a deal and how to proceed with it. We're going to take a break at 10:30. I just want to keep going here in the retail topic right now. Any other questions on retail that people have at this point? I don't mind people just raising their hand because I don't want to forget a question or a topic that I'm talking about.
I had a question. You mentioned something called a bond lease. What is that?
That's the ultimate triple net lease, a bond lease. Typically, in the triple net investment world, we're going to talk about triple net lease investments later on. How to invest in them, how to do a 1031. That's really a 1031 world, is all triple net lease-based investments. A bond lease is the ultimate triple net lease. The bond lease is the tenant guarantees every cost of the building. In a triple net lease property, usually the landlord's still responsible for the outside walls, which is not usually an issue, unless someone rams a truck into the building and cracks the wall, but then you have insurance for that. And definitely hire a public adjuster. They deal with the insurance issue for you. They get the most money you should be getting for the claim. You get the repair done, and honestly, you can make money doing that if you understand the construction cost side of it. And usually they have a roof issue on a triple net lease form. The landlord is usually responsible for some portion of the roof, either the first 5 years or the first 10 years, or they'll bond the roof. In other words, you'll hire a contractor to take on a maintenance guarantee on the roof that it'll never leak. If it does leak, he's responsible to come and fix it. A bond lease is basically the landlord has no financial responsibilities for the building at all. None of the walls, none of the roof, none of the landscaping, none of the parking lot, no striping of it, no seal coating of it, anything. And I guess most of the things we'll be talking about, and most of my experience has been a triple net lease. You usually take on the 4 outer walls, it's not an issue, and you usually take on the roof. Again, you got a good roofer, you bond the roof, so you don't have an issue. That's one of the first things we'll talk about evaluating properties. You should get a good evaluation team to go evaluate the roof. That's the most expensive, in my opinion, problem on a roof, on a building is the roof. If it creates a leak, if you don't deal with the leak, or you don't take some foresight, long-term look at what the roof, what the problems the roof can cause for you on the building. It's not an expensive animal to tame, but it's something you got to evaluate. I don't know how many people here have an interest or have a business entity formed already. If you don't already, I would recommend you go ahead and form one. A question in the back?
And how much does a roof cost per square foot?
In the commercial world, it depends. Pardon me? Repeat the question. Pat, in the industrial world and the commercial world, how much does a roof cost? It depends. On an industrial building, which is usually a flat roof, or a commercial building, which is a flat roof, again, you have to get a good roofer to evaluate it. I'm going to say anywhere from $1 a square foot to $10 a square foot. An existing built-up tar roof is the best kind of roof to have in today's world because it's easily patched. Just about anybody in the roofing business can evaluate it, repair it, or do a maintenance on it. A maintenance is really deferring your capital improvement of replacing the roof, as far as you can into the future, or unless you can get a tenant to pay for it. That's always been my goal. Someone's got their phone on. But typically, most roofers are going to try to charge you $20 to $30 a square foot for a roof, sometimes $40, because they don't think you know any better. But usually roofing is not a big issue. There's always either a hot repair, a cold patch, or the ultimate roof is a rubber roof. Even if you have a rubber roof, even if you have a torch down roof or a built-up roof, you could go hire a roofer, put on a rubber roof. They give you a 10-year guarantee. It comes from the manufacturer and the installer, and they're usually $5 a square foot. It's really like an 0.80, so it's less than a quarter of an inch thick rubber they put down over the roof. They seam it, they terminate the edge of the parapet of the roof, and guarantee it's all with glue and a hot gun. Use like a hair dryer, basically. Put a glue down, they heat up the glue dries, and that's it. It has the most longevity because it stretches, where a torch down roof, when the building moves, the sun's always beating on it, dries it out, makes it crack. A rubber roof expands and moves with the building like a rubber band. And that's the biggest rage today in roofing. I guess the last 20 years, rubber roof has really become the ultimate. You can get them in black, gray, and for a premium, which is like 10% over the cost, you get them in white. So they have a real high reflectivity, especially in the southern states, even in Michigan, these days, because you have a lot of sun rays. Really, what kills a roof is the sun. If you have a torch down roof, a black roof, you put the silver coat on top of it. Basically paint. You can hire a guy for 10 or 12 bucks an hour. It's a 5-gallon paint bucket, and you roll it over the roof. It dries, and it adds 5 or 6 years to the life of your roof. Again, because the sun's rays dries out the black roof, starts alligator backing, is a term that roofers use. Once that starts getting into the roof, it splits, kind of like an asphalt driveway, the same condition. That's why you have to keep sealing a blacktop driveway. With a torch down roof, no one wants to go on a roof. But really, it's something you should have somebody do. Or if you have a construction background, at least go there on your roofs once a year. I recommend you have someone else go on the roof. But I've been raised in it, so I don't fear taking a foldable ladder, open it up, and go up and look at a roof. But once a year or twice a year, go up on the roof, clear out the drains on the roof, and evaluate the roof and see what condition it is, what the sun's taking its toll. Typically, you can buy a pail of reflective coat. They sell it at Lowe's now and Home Depot. You don't have to go to a roofing supplier. And you can hire somebody for 10 bucks or 12 bucks an hour to roll the roof, silver coat the roof. The material's roughly $6 a gallon. So that's an incredible insurance policy to put on your roof.
Can you do that with a felt roof, or just the rubber?
Can you do that with a felt roof?
The tar paper roof?
In the commercial world, there's torch down roofs and there's built up hot tower roofs. Yes, hot tower roof that's what I'm talking about, either hot tower or torch down. A torch down roof is basically, it comes in rolls. It's the same tar product, but it's in a roll, like they call it a Tootsie Roll, or there's another term for it, a blanket roll. They roll it out on the roof. The guy goes up with a big torch, runs on butane or propane, and he heats up the edge of it, and it just torches it right down to whatever's there already. That's a torch down roof.
My question is, can you paint a hot tar roof?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can always paint a hot tar roof. You just can't paint a rubber roof. The rubber roof, the paint will eat away at the rubber and cause it to leak. So what you do, again, as I said, you can either get the black rubber roof, was at least expensive. There's a gray tone, which is a little bit more, but I recommend go to the white tone roof. So all the flashings are in white, the whole roof is in white. There's no issue with sun. Basically, by getting a white rubber roof, you double the life pattern of the roof, lifetime warranty on the roof. The biggest issue we have problems with a rubber roof is that mechanical people, you go up on the roof to do roof repairs to your units that you charge to the tenant. Sometimes they take the covers off the mechanical equipment, because they're always on a commercial building, always on the roof, because it's it's the most efficient place to put them, because they're usually about the size of 2 of these tables. They take the screws out, take the doors off the equipment, and there might be 20 screws on. They got their little zip gun. They take the screws out. They take the 20 screws, pull the panels off, change the filter, change the belt, put the panels back up, put 18 screws. Where are the other 2? They're on the roof. They fold up their tools and they walk away. Next guy comes up. You don't know when, but by chance, he'll step on that screw. Screw punctures your rubber roof, and water gets under the roof and travels. That's really the hardest part of a rubber roof, is how to find a leak. Because the water will travel underneath the roof and then find the least passive resistance into the tenant space and, cause problems below. But again, learned this a lot over the years, that there's good rubber roofing people, there's good rubber roofing product, and again, it's another thing you got to sort the good from the bad, and you learn. But I'm just going to talk to you about the common sense approach to roofing. It's nothing to fear. Just like commercial investment, it's nothing to fear. Evaluating a building, getting the right people on your team to evaluate it, and people that you trust to do the work. You always get 3 competitive bids. Never go with 1 bid. Always get 3. Always been taught that. Sometimes you get 5 bids. Something that just doesn't sit right with what I'm being told. I said, I'm just going to put it back out to bid again. Just constantly, increasing the scope of the people you deal with, the contractors, the subcontractors. You get everything in writing with them. That's a whole nother seminar in itself, but basically have a good contract. You have performance guarantees. You don't want to hear, first of all, you want to settle on the price. And then you want to settle on when it's going to be done. That's the key. The price could be the best price in the world, but if the guy never gets the work done, how does that help you? Tenant's upset, you're upset, the roof's leaking, or whatever kind of capacity you're hiring a contractor to do the work, whether it's landscaping or snow plowing or striping the parking lot. A lot of people pay contractors up front. I've been a licensed builder since 1978. And there's no reason to pay a contractor up front. You set up a contract, you start paying him the day he shows up on a job and actually does some work. You always have a holdback. You pay him in performance categories. If you're hiring to do a roof, the first day the roof on the job is to evaluate the roof. He gives you the quote. Next time he's going to really show up to that job is when the material's delivered. Typically you pay him 20% upon the first phase of the job. Okay, thank you, Liz. And then you pay him another 20% in phase 2, and I usually hold 60% to the end, until he's all the way through the job. Then at the very end, I hold a 10% holdback. The first category, the first 20%, is probably people say, well, what are these categories? What are you holding 20%? The first 20% is getting the roof ready. If the roof has any imperfections after you're removed, that's what I call the first chunk of the job, the first 20%. If there's any roofs that have to be repaired or removed, that's you paying the first 20% on the job. What they're used to getting is 50%, but I would never recommend doing that. Even the roofers I know, to this day, I don't pay them those kind of terms. The second 20% is when they actually install the product. A rubber roof or a torch-down roof goes down very fast. You'd be amazed at how fast they can put down, 50 square or 60 square. If they got the right people, they start early in the morning. By the end of the day, the whole job's down. That's you pay them the second 20%. Then you let it wait a week and see if the roof is going to have any problems. Then you pay them another 25%. And then when the job is finally done, and you're finally satisfied, you pay the balance of it, but always keep a 10% holdback for up to a year, unless you get a warranty from them on the roof, from the manufacturer and from them that they sign personally. Then you could pay them 100%. But again, typically the roof ranges for a new roof is between $1 a square foot and $10 a square foot. You shouldn't really have to pay more than that.
How do you pay a basis for jobs that aren't that large? For, like for instance, landscaping.
I'm repeating the question. On a landscaping job, that's a different topic. That's a maintenance issue. You sign up, when you're doing it, maintaining a building for your tenants, you have an ongoing contract with them. You pay them by the month for what they do. Say it's $30 a month to cut the grass and keep all the debris picked up on the parking lot and all the trees trimmed. That's a typical small retail center. That's typically what you pay a contractor. That's in my experience. Sometimes you go to 50.
For late service? How do you establish that?
Again, it's trial and error. Great service on contractors was a question.
A late service.
Late service,
So your performance guarantees.
oh, okay, performance guarantees on contractors. Late service. What I do is I don't pay them.
So,
They have a timeline of when, they have a timeline of when they have to perform the service. Usually between the 1st and 10th of the month, they want the grass cut and the whole parking lot patrol put into the dumpster that's on site. Every week, they got to keep the grass cut. They got to pick a day, and that's the day they got to cut the grass. You can't let the building get shabby, then the tenants get on you, they want to pay their triple net cost. Again, if you have a property manager at a certain point where they oversees 10 or 15 properties for you all the time. But when you're just starting out, you're kind of the eyes and ears of that property. Go, just drive by the property and see what it looks like. Make sure that the subcontractors you hire are, keeping things up the way you want to see them.
I guess where I saw the phases being applicable is where when you first start the contract with them, and you have to give some type of money up front, or do you give no money up front? They provide the service first, they trim the lawn, they take care of the parking lot, and then you give them the payment? Because if they don't show up or they're late, if you've already paid them upfront costs, it's gone.
Yeah, I think we're talking two different things. The question you're bringing up is paying them up front versus paying them over time. The example I was talking about was a roof replacement or roof repair. And I think the question you're going into is a monthly ongoing expense, like landscaping, maintaining a property.
Well, not so much. I guess what I'm asking is, with services, it's still similar to a large job because you have to start the process, and once the process is started, it becomes monthly. But up front, they haven't done any work. They haven't, you haven't seen their quality or anything. So you have to give them some type of money to get the contract started, or
No, you don't.
you don't give them some type of
I'll
money. I don't know. That's what I'm wondering.
I'll ask the question again to clarify it. When you sign a contract with a contractor, there's no reason why you have to give them any money up front. They haven't performed any service.
Okay.
You pay them when they perform a service. Like I said, in a roofing instance, when they show up to do the work is when they're going to get paid. When they do something the first day, you don't pay them just because they're your friend and say, here, here's a contract, you got to give me money. No, you don't.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's just the way of how you look at it, and they'll respect you for that. The ones that don't deal with you, then that's the people you don't want to deal with.
Some contractors, though, say, if I have material that I have to buy, I need that money up front so I can go and buy that material, so I can show up the first day to do your job.
Right, that's a different instance. You're talking about material up front. In my situation, the way I've always dealt with, I don't let them buy material. If they're not enough of a caliber of person I want to deal with, they already have an account with a supplier, those are the kind of people I deal with. I don't deal with people that live hand to mouth when it comes to materials. They have a line with Holsheimer or FJ Roofing, all the supply houses, they know they get 30 days or 60-day material billing time. They order the material's shipped to the job, they're not at risk. I'll sign their waiver if they want to say, well, the supplier wants to put a lien on the property. So, yeah, sure, no problem at all. I'll guarantee the supplier's going to get paid. You don't need any money for that. So material is really inconsequential because, again, if you give them money for materials, how do you know they're going to go buy materials with it? You want to take away that temptation. You don't want to give them 10 grand to go buy a roofing material, and that's gone. That money's never coming back. So again, it's how you structure it. That you got to know, or you got to put on the air that you know more about the contracting business than they do. Whether you do or you don't, you learn the game, and just tell them, here's the rules of engagement, here's how we want to work. Here's how I work with all the people I've dealt with over the years. Plumbers are the same way, electrical people the same way, paving people the same way, recovering a parking lot or tearing out their parking lot.
Do you have any type of negative payment program if they are running late or behind or anything? You get less than what was the original agreed upon price?
I've never really penalized people for, typically I don't penalize people for not hitting a deadline. I just incentivize them to hit a deadline I want. I guess it's a different way of putting it. You're saying, do you penalize people for not hitting a deadline you want? No, they penalize themselves. Because the way I set it up, they're going to get paid a bonus if they hit the date I want. If they don't make it, they're just getting a normal pay.
What's typical bonus?
Typically, it depends on the job, but typically the bonus I give people is a 10% bonus. So if it's a $10,000 job, they get an additional $1,000. $100,000 job is 10 grand. It adds up. The bigger the job, the more money for them, and trust me, it gets their attention.
Do you ever buy the material yourself so that you try and get it as much at cost as possible and then supply it and they just do the labor?
I have in the past. The question was, do you ever buy material yourself? I have in the past, but typically I don't do that. I just let them charge it to the supplier that they deal with, and I know that's already a wholesale cost. Unless it gets involved with lumber, which is a commodity. Lumber is a really competitive quote item when you're building a new building, industrial building or a commercial building or apartment complex. That's a real commodity-driven price. But everything else is pretty much a static. Roofing's roofing, cement's cement, nails are nails. Let them just charge it to their suppliers.
But they mark it up before they send you the bill, right?
I don't allow that. The question was, do you let them mark it up? I don't let them mark up materials.
Well, how do you know how much they're paying for all that stuff?
They show me the invoice. That's part of my contract. The question again was, how do you know what they're paying for the materials? When they bid a job, it's labor and material. I always have them segmented out so material's separate. Material's based on the invoices they have to pay. Labor's really where you're getting to. Anyone could buy material. Johnny Green Company and Aircon Heating and Cooling buy the material from the same place. All you're really trying to get a bid from them is on the labor cost. They might bid 4 hours to do a job and take a rooftop unit out and replace it, versus Johnny Green might be able to do it in 2 hours. That's the only variable there. Material's material. All the manufacturers of rooftop units, all have the same kind of warranty. They're 5 years or 10 years. 5 years on the parts, 10 years on the heat exchanger. You can buy extended warranties if you want, but I don't typically do that. That's another realm of the construction side is, again, when you build buildings from the ground up like I've done, you get to know the real cost of a rooftop unit. Again, over time, you develop that experience, but a rooftop unit on a typical retail storefront, the equipment itself is usually no more than $3,000. The heating and cooling people want you to believe it's $30,000 or $40,000 for mechanical equipment. All is a metal box. It's got a little compressor in it, and a fan in it, and a filter rack, and a bunch of electronic controls. Kind of liken it back to the car. When you buy a car brand new, it's an X amount of money. But if you went and bought all the parts to that car at the parts counter, it'd be, who knows what the cost, probably 1,000 times more money. Same thing with rooftop equipment. It's no different. When you get to a point where the rooftop equipment is a constant repair cost, you can replace the rooftop equipment and you charge it to the tenant. Go ahead, you have a question?
What happens if, have you ever ran into a situation where they wanted to show you the invoice to have something done?
Can you repeat that?
Have you ever ran into a situation where they didn't want to show you the invoice on materials they bought?
The question was, do you ever run into an instance where the contractor I hired didn't want to show me the invoice? once. The next time, he didn't try that. As I said, I won't do business with you. It's in the contract, again, that I signed with them up front. Everything's spelled out ahead of time. Try to be up front with them. Say, all I really want, I'll give you all kinds of work and keep your future work, because I'm not constantly buying buildings, selling buildings. There's other people I know, and they understand the power of referral. Different landlords I know that I can refer business to them, because that's how they work. They don't really advertise. Most commercial contractors don't advertise and don't need to advertise. It's all word of mouth. You know, people doing Friedman's work refer business to Farbman. Farbman refers it to the, you know, the Glassman group. There's all different groups of people. They all use the same commercial contractors, do their work. And they, excuse me, they understand that without that referral business, their income is going to drop dramatically. So they're there to work with you. Again, if they go by what you respond to, you say, well, I'm not going to show you the invoice. I'm going to mark up my materials. They say, okay, nice knowing you. That's all. But people don't, if you don't know that say that, then you're going to say, okay, what's the markup? 30% over cost on material? Okay, I can live with that. It's all negotiation, everything you're doing, just like you acquire a building, finding a building, dealing with a distressed property owner or a bank. It's how you come across. You have to have confidence that you know what you're doing, that you're not about to be taken advantage of, basically.
That would come out in competitive bids?
Repeat the question, was that would come out in a competitive bid?
Yeah.
It'd come out in a competitive bid, but in a competitive bid too, that's another thing that, again, the contractors you're dealing with doesn't mean just because they're a contractor, they're the best contractor. I mean, I've seen bids on a recent thing I was bidding out for a building down in Detroit that Mark mentioned earlier, this industrial building. For a constant problem with the roof we've had with this rubber roof issue down there. It's a storm-related damage. But the last time he was on the roof, he couldn't find what the problem was. It's a constant leak. Every time we have a hard driving rain, it leaks. So I had this other roofing consultant to go up and look at the roof. You know, he charged me $100 to evaluate the whole roof. So I put it out to bid to the contractors I know, the roofing contractors. Go up, take this portion of the roof up, the rubber roof up, go down, they put this elephant glue, basically. It's like filler putty into the different cracks under the existing roof, put the rubber roof back down. This rubber roof was ballasted. It's got a termination bar. It's not glued down. It's not fully adhered. It's just got like a termination bar, and they put stone on for ballast. It's another different kind of way of hearing a roof. Anyway, I got a bid to go in and do that process on the roof. One bid was $1,000, and one bid was $11,000. One bid was $5,000. So you could see who I went to. I went to the guy at $1,000. I said, how could he be so cheap? He goes, Pat, I got 2 guys. I'm going to be here 3 hours. I went through the whole job with him. Obviously, he got the job. The guy that got $10,000 didn't bother to call him back. Okay, we're going to take a break in about 5 minutes. Just want to wrap up. Any more questions people have on repairs in the back?
You require tenants to have like quarterly maintenance on the HVAC system?
It depends, Bob. It depends on the tenant. Typically, on all commercial retail structures that I've been involved in or own currently, it's in the lease that the tenant has to pay for the repairs. I hire the people to do the repairs. I have an HVAC guy that I know, there's 2 of them. I don't ever have just one, I always have 2. Because you never know when one's on vacation or one's on a trip or one's sick or can't get to the job. Again, in a triple net lease, which all the leases I operate are triple net leases, all the cost is borne by the tenant. If there's an issue with the roof, they call the property manager or call me, it depends on the situation. But typically, they call the property manager, he calls the heating and cooling contractor, they go out and do the repair and they add it onto their monthly cost. Yeah, but they're already paying into it. In a triple net lease, they're paying a monthly escrow. We guesstimate basically what the taxes are, what the insurance is, and what the repairs of the building are every year or every month. And they're paying money into an escrow account. At the end of the year, you're given an accounting of it, of how much money was spent or how much of a shortage there is. And typically, they're paying in $300 or $400 a year, or $300 or $400 a month towards mechanical equipment. So it gives me money to operate on, to have the mechanical checked out periodically. If there is an issue, the problem is solved. Again, at the end of the year, you recap it and then bill the tenant for it, the underage or overage. Typically, we're pretty close. Again, mechanical equipment doesn't usually have many problems as it's ongoing maintenance. As you mentioned, Bob, there's filters that have to be replaced. It's in your best interest, but also really in the tenant's best interest to keep the equipment up and running. It's really, a rooftop unit is really inefficient when the filters are plugged. So they're paying more for utilities because they pay for the electric, they pay for the gas on the building, on the running equipment in the space. So it's really in their best interest to keep the equipment operating at peak efficiency, keeping the filters changed, the belts replaced and tight, and the freon charged.